man replied with a chilling grin. Upper body of a man, lower body of a horse.
Hi everyone, I hope you're all doing great. First of all, a huge thank you for all your support, whether it's through comments, watching our videos, or taking the time to share your real experiences. Because of you, we now have so many incredible stories, but our main focus is to always find the very best and bring them to life for our audience. So if you have a story that stands out, please share it with us. We'll make sure to narrate the most powerful ones first. And now let's move over to our narrator, who will begin today's story.
Hi today. Story is sent by Isabella Vite. She said, the story was shared with us by my father, who worked for a long time in the Foreign Office and spent many years posted in America and the Middle East. One evening, when all my cousins were gathered together, sharing horror stories, my father walked in and asked why everyone looked so tense and expressionless. My younger sister explained, we're just telling each other scary experiences. That's why the mood is like this. He shook his head and said, half serious, that we shouldn't involve the younger ones in such discussions. Then, after a pause, he told us that he had his own terrifying experiences during his posting in the Middle East. Out of respect, I won't mention the country, but what he went through still gives chills. He explained that during his service abroad, he had close ties with the local officers and became good friends with one or two of them. One of them was especially close. On one occasion, they decided to visit a nearby resort for the National Day celebrations. It was meant to be just a simple one-night trip. Everything was ready. Bags packed, car loaded, plans made. But when they tried to start the car, the engine refused to spark. It was frustrating, especially since the car was new. My friend kept trying for 10 to 15 minutes, but nothing worked. Since they had already told their friends at the resort they'd be arriving by a certain time, the situation felt even worse. Finally, his friend suggested they switch to his other vehicle, a brand new SUV he had bought only 2 weeks earlier. Half joking, my father teased, better check if this one starts too. His friend laughed, pressed the ignition, and thankfully, the SUV roared to life. They both felt relieved and quickly loaded the luggage into it. But as soon as they drove out of the garage, the SUV suddenly jerked and stalled. Both men looked at each other in disbelief. His friend tried starting it again and again, but this time, the car refused to move. Confused and unsettled, they called a mechanic. The man arrived half an hour later, inspected the first car briefly, and casually turned the key. To their shock, the engine started instantly, as if there had never been a problem. There's nothing wrong with it, the mechanic said. I can't find any fault. Not wanting to waste more time, they immediately transferred everything back to that car and set out. What should have been a 6 p.m. departure turned into 8 p.m., and they were already behind schedule. They drove faster than usual, hoping to reach before midnight. My father's Arab friend then suggested a shortcut that would save them nearly an hour. The shortcut, however, was desolate. No houses, no towns, nothing on either side of the road. It felt eerie. While driving, his friend suddenly asked, "Do you hear that? The sound of a horse running beside us?" My father said no, and asked how anyone could be riding a horse here in the middle of nowhere. His friend was insistent. He could clearly hear it. My father dismissed it as imagination, but the unease lingered. Later, back on the main highway, my father turned on the interior light to grab some snacks from the back seat. In that brief moment, he saw something that froze him. What looked like the faint silhouette of a horse rider following their car. He quickly told his friend, who checked the rearview mirror. His friend tried to calm him, suggesting that wealthy young men in the region sometimes rode horses at night for thrill. But deep inside, my father wasn't convinced. They pushed the thought aside and continued driving. A few miles before their destination, they saw a small pit stop with a stall selling lime drinks. His friend suggested stopping briefly to rest. They parked the car and walked over. There was only one man at the stall. He was unusually tall, easily over 7 feet, with a thick, brownish beard that oddly reminded my father of a horse's tail. His voice was deep, and his smile carried something unsettling, as though he was pretending to be friendly. My father's friend spoke to him in their native language, then glanced uneasily at my father. He knows where we're coming from and where we're going, his friend whispered. That was enough to send shivers down my father's spine. The man then switched effortlessly to perfect English and said, "I hope my friends didn't bother you on the road." "My friends?" my father asked cautiously. "They look just like me," the man replied with a chilling grin. "Upper body of a man, lower body of a horse." As he spoke, he stepped aside and lifted the hem of his long native robe. What he revealed made my father's blood run cold. Beneath the cloth, the man had the massive, muscled legs of a horse, fused grotesquely to the torso of a man. The next thing my father remembered was collapsing. When he woke up, he was in a hospital, his friend unconscious in the bed next to him. 2 police officers stood nearby. They explained they had found both of them lying on the road and had suspected they were drunk. My father, still shaken, introduced himself and explained what had happened. One officer replied quietly in his native tongue, "There is not anything like refreshment point on this road till 300 kilometers, and also this road is not safe at night." That was the end of the incident. The entity hadn't harmed them, but the experience left my father trembling for weeks. From that day onward, he and his friend avoided traveling at night, and even at dusk on those roads. It was, my father concluded, the most horrific experience of my life.
Thank you so much for listening. Stay with us by subscribing to more horrific stories and mysterious life events. Signing off now. We'll be back with another story